Kevin and Tiki on the Fan. It's me, Sean, with Teak, Loogie across the way as well, Rosie, and plenty to get to today. But the Mets, the OMG Mets, Tiki, dare I say I was wrong on a losing streak, as they have themselves a nice little wild comeback, hold on for dear life night in Washington. But let me say this, young man, Tiki Barber.
I'm old, but go ahead.
I think you saw above anything else last night when it comes to the trade deadline, now's the time to strike with trading J.D. Martinez.
Are you kidding? What is wrong with you?
Yes.
What is wrong with you? There is not a Met fan alive that would co-sign that.
I know, and that's why I'm here to talk some sense and be, dare I say, an IBO, an independent baseball observer, an independent Met observer. Look, last night was a really fun win, and there's obviously positives to take out of it, namely Francisco Alvarez, who gets his batting average up to 306, and hello, anybody out there who's watched the Mets all year, when did the Mets stink the most? When Francisco Alvarez was lost after that Dodgers series, and since he has come back and he has figured it out, he, of course, gets the big hit, puts the Mets in front after it looked like early, down 2-0, David Peterson not finding his stuff. It wasn't going to be that kind of night. But he's hitting down in that 7-hole. The Mets have clicked as a lineup. Viento's up there. He continues to get big hits. And I look at this Met team, and I'm just trying to see the honest forest through the trees, and that is this. Why did the Mets almost lose that game last night? Because their bullpen continues to be an unmitigated disaster.
Well, yeah. Well, I think it's Carlos Mendoza trying to save innings, save arms, and so you go to guys like Tyler J.
Who is Tyler J?
I have no idea. Or Festus.
Right.
Festa the day before.
Uncle
What was his
Festa.
last name? Festa?
Yeah.
I was like, who is this
Festa
kid?
for the rest of us.
Right. Maybe we're going to hit lightning in a bottle, bring one
Right.
of these kids up, and he's just going to be spectacular. Just not happening. And so, yes, the bullpen has been and probably will be until they make a move, the Achilles heel, so to speak. And maybe that changes when Edwin Diaz comes back. And, maybe they, with, Budo coming up now, don't know what the exact plan is for him, whether he's going to start or be in the bullpen. Right? But maybe they're starting to get a little bit of stability around this spot, but it is still an issue.
Yeah. And which is why I'm bringing up J.D. Martinez. And, of course, I'm not telling you hand over J.D. Martinez to somebody for a bag of balls. But I think if you are the Mets, you will be able to still compete post this deadline because I don't think anybody's going to run away in the wild card. I think we know that much for sure through September. But when J.D. Martinez has a big home run like that, and you realize that he's on a one-year deal, he is not part of the long-term picture of this team, albeit how important he is to this lineup. I now do trust, with the emergence of Vientos and Alvarez being healthy, the depth of the Met lineup, that they do have some depth there to build for the future while still competing. And the reason I have my doubts about, it's one thing to compete for a playoff, but trading J.D. Martinez might be a concession that you don't think you can win a World Series. We keep saying this, and it's almost like we take it for granted. Every team in Major League Baseball needs bullpen help. Every team. So the idea that the Mets are going to get two arms out of this and be able to outmaneuver all these other teams, I am really skeptical. And you mentioned Edwin Diaz coming back. This is checkbox number 2 of why I'm concerned.
Because you don't trust that he's going to be the same.
What?
Hold on. Let me stick with Edwin Diaz, with J.D. Martinez for a second before we get to Edwin Diaz.
Okay.
Because I think Edwin Diaz needed that little break at the beginning. They called it shoulder soreness. It is what it is. He hadn't pitched for a year. He comes back. He's trying to be the man again. It is what it is. The break, I think, helped him. We'll get to it in a second. But J.D. Martinez, the only reason the Mets would move on from him is because they have such faith in their farm system or the guys in their farm system that they don't want to send any of them away.
Yes.
Right? Or they see them as potentially the future at XYZ spot.
Yep.
Now, the reason you would, I'm speculating here, that you would move J.D. Martinez is because he's so valuable. Right?
Yes.
For a team that is, we need a bat to put us in position to win a World Series, to go all in. We need a bat to win, to get ourselves in that position. J.D. Martinez is that bat, right? That's the reason that you're saying this. But I also would counter that and say the Mets could become that team themselves.
I see. That's
right?
where
If they straighten up their bullpen, however they do it, whether it's some of these young kids coming up or maybe Tyler McGill moving to the bullpen or whatever this shoring up process is. Let's say they do it. they're going to need J.D. Martinez, right? They're going to need that I don't know, that threat that's sitting there with when, Pete Alonso and J.D. Martinez and Alvarez and Vientos. Like, they need as much offense as they can get. And I think the reason why it doesn't make sense to even consider moving him is until you get your bullpen shored up, just like last night, you're going to have to score a lot of runs to win some of these close games.
No question about it, but that's the counterpoint. If you're not confident you're going to get the bullpen shored up and be a true, forget playoff contender, because you can get in 6 wild cards. They are a playoff contender. But I'm talking about doing something deeper, really be the Diamondbacks or the Phillies of the last couple of years. To me, it's an impossibility with their bullpen. And this Met team, above anything else, as David Stearns gets in here and evaluates everything, there is a reason he signed guys to one-year deals, because they had to try to compete this year, but also those guys could be trade chips towards building prospects. If you get 2 decent prospects for J.D. Martinez, and next offseason the Mets have signed Corbin Burns, they figured out a way to get Alex Bregman. Forget Juan Soto or something like that. You finally start seeing the Steve Cohen money get spent, and this team, combined with the young guys that we've seen emerge, Vientos and Alvarez, has really a better feel for competing the next couple of years. We're not meandering through at 41-41 running the fun vibe here. I would like to have more of a treasure chest there, and this is the time to strike that. So I think you need to understand that the fun of this Met team and the fun of a win like last night, the reality is the Mets are still a team that's going to compete for the 6th wild card and probably not do much else because of the shape of their bullpen, and there's too many teams looking for bullpen arms. So I would be in sell while assuming you still could compete mode, and I am so confident Francisco Alvarez moving up in that order that the Mets wouldn't lose all that much with J.D. Martinez, and they still can compete offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but I feel like J.D. Martinez is part of the glue. You know what I mean? He's part of that, that process that helped make this team what it is right now.
It certainly has.
Now, I know Francisco Alvarez, statistically, I'm talking about the wins and losses since he was away or when he was away, and now since he's been back, is kind of really that catalyst. But you can't deny that J.D. Martinez has also been a huge part of it.
Absolutely.
And so when you take away one of those pieces, somebody's got to replace it. So who fills that void, right? Who becomes this mashing DH? Are you bringing Brett Beatty back up to hit 190?
Vientos could be the DH, but
that's what I mean. So you bring Brett Beatty back up to hit 190, so Vientos is your DH?
Well, hold on. Marte comes back at the end of the year.
Yeah, but he's not.
And you can survive with what you've had in the outfield right now?
Yeah, you can, but it just doesn't feel as complete. I almost forget that Marte is banged up.
My point is they have depth now, Tiki, but you have to consider more than just this year. If you're going to be short-sighted and sell yourself, would you rather have, with a better team the next couple of years, a depth of prospects that either come up or you could use for the finishing touches of this team? Or would you rather just push through, have J.D. Martinez leave in free agency, and go out in 3 games in the wild card round this year?
The thing that makes it hard to even, entertain this is it feels like cold-blooded.
Of course it is.
It feels business first and not team first.
But it's not without precedent with David Stearns, because when David Stearns had the Brewers in a very similar situation to these Mets in a playoff position, he knew he could have been on the verge of losing Josh Hader and he could trade him for a haul. And he traded Josh Hader. And Brewers fans weren't happy. It was a tough pill to swallow for them. But David Stearns has shown in his past stop, even though we weren't paying attention, he is cold-blooded. And last week when he met the media and he was asked about the idea of the way the Mets have played and if it changes his approach to how he views this team and how he views the trade deadline, he didn't confidently say, hey, yes, we're all in. I love the way we're playing. He used the word sure. Like when your wife asks you if you want to make plans on Friday night to hang out with a couple you got no interest. Sure. That's all he said. So I think David Stearns is lying there thinking big picture right now.
I don't know if he's being coy or just you say the most ambiguous thing you can so that you're not tipping your hand. Sure is like, I agree with you, but I also disagree with you.
Sure is what my wife said to me when I proposed. I still didn't get a yes.
Hey, we want to get married, honey? Sure.
Yes.
And it depends on the tone, the pitch. Is it like, sure? Or is it like, Sure.
It was better than.
Or is it like, sure.
It was better than I guess. I guess. But sure is what David Stearns gave you.
It's true.
Look, there's just you guys have to.
I just take that as him not wanting to tip his hand. He
Maybe.
doesn't want to tell the trade conscious world what his plans are, because then that takes away some of, not all of, but a little bit of the leverage. And so I like that he's very flat, that he's not emotional, that he does things in very nondescript ways. I'm talking about David Stearns, because you don't know where his mind is. You don't know where he's going. The only thing we know is that this Met team is being evaluated. And it's being evaluated by quarters of the season. It's being evaluated by weeks of the year. It's being evaluated by games.
No,
right?
it feels like they've had different seasons throughout this one season.
It really does, and it's all an accumulation of data and thought and future. Because at the end of the day, that's what we have to remember. The only thing that matters with David Stearns right now is the future. If they get hot and they do what the Phillies did, or the Diamondbacks, or one of these teams that makes a run, great. But it's not. I don't think it's the real time right now plan.
I just know that. And again, you're not handing him over and just saying, here's J.D. Martinez. It would have to be a team that wants a bat, but he could be a very attractive bat for a team. And I just caution every Met fan out there. If this turns out where, this fun season, the Grimace Mets, the OMG Mets, and you lose in the wild card round, you'd be more than thrilled that you made the playoffs and you got in the dance, especially digging yourself out of the hole. But it'll feel really empty if you go to turn the page and there's J.D. Martinez with you having no interest in re-signing him at the end of the year, where that's all it materialized. I think David Stearns is thinking big picture, and I think last night's home run by J.D. Martinez was another sign to the rest of the league that this could be an attractive bat. And the Mets, I am confident in the depth of their lineup that is the one-year deal piece, besides a Luis Severino, that you could sell yet still compete and still get to the end result where you want to be. 888-808-1019. I have some thoughts on the bullpen and Edwin Diaz in a moment, but let's get going on the calls with Mike in Toms River. Mike, what's up?
Hey, guys. Good talking to you. It's 2 days in a row. I just wanted to say, Sean, I'm an avid Yankee fan who cannot stand the Mets. I despise them, and I'm Joe Beningo's age. However, I am able to look at a team clearly and size them up. And if I was a Mets fan, I think you're doing today exactly what you did yesterday, talking about OG and how we're going to regret it. Trading him is mindless because of the hope he brings you. Yeah, they may go out in the wild card round, but the word may means maybe yes.
Well, but remember, Mike, I know that Alonso still hasn't had the great year. I'm not going to cut you off. I'm not going to cut you off. Francisco Alvarez, I think we could all agree, has become the true heartbeat go-to hitter in this lineup. He's hitting down.
100%.
All right? You still have Lindor, you still have Alonso. I know the importance of J.D. Martinez, but you have to remember this is not a long-term piece on a Met team that's still 41-41. I think we're overvaluing the Mets' end goals here this year by holding on to them.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the current trend, the way they're going right now. And I know when I do watch both teams, even though I despise them. I watch them, and if I knew he wasn't on the team now, I mean, their chances of even making the playoffs are down. And I think his piece is so important to both the clubhouse and the offense that I know it could blow up in our face, just like OG could be an injury his whole career, and you would be right. But I would never do that. Can I tell you something real quick that I think you'll get a kick out of? I've told this story on the Fan before. It's pretty amazing. I mentioned yesterday that I played wheelchair basketball competitively.
Yes, right.
Never near. I'm not talking Olympics. Me making the Olympic team would be like you making the men's basketball team now. It's not the same thing. But we used to do exhibits it would either be after a game or at halftime. You may have seen it where wheelchairs come rolling out there. And all these guys in wheelchairs, they're just sitting by the court waiting to jump in the second halftime ends or the second the game's over to start showing everybody. I waited by the locker room for the players. And there was a game at the Meadowlands. Jordan missed a shot at the buzzer, a 3-point that would have won the game, and they lost. I am waiting at the locker room. I'm on one side of the door Jordan was going to go in, and right next to me was he happened to be African American, and I'm saying that for a reason.
Who was
Very
it?
young-looking guy. Jordan comes through, and he looked like a guy. Steam was coming off his face, and I was scared. And the other guy on the other side of the doorway, right next to me, goes, "Hey, Mike, can I get your autograph?" And when he did that, Jordan yelled out on the top of his lungs,
Right. I mean,
"Not now."
well, I
And-
mean, there's certain times and places. I appreciate your call, Mike. When you address an athlete, it's not when he has a bad moment in a day, right?
No.
And here's the thing: the problem is that happens, and everybody who saw that or witnessed it says, "Oh, Mike's just a bad dude."
That's the judgment you have of Mike in that spot.
That's right, and it's not fair.
Yeah. No, you don't want to catch me on the Long Island Railroad on a bad day after a bad show. Not good. Lewis in Short Hills. Lewis, what's
What's up,
up?
Lewis?
Hey guys, I got a couple of 3 quick points for you. The Mets are selling tickets, the Mets are selling hot dogs, and the Mets are selling beer now that they're winning.
Yeah.
And if they start to trade off pieces, fewer people are coming to the game.
But I,
Steve Cohen does not like losing money.
I'm not saying it's a fire
The second
sale.
thing is, no, even if you trade off just Severino and JD, you're going to see fewer people come because
Lewis, no doubt. I'll let you stay on for a second. What if throughout those trades, kind of like a strength for a strength, you get a bullpen arm or two? What if JD Martinez not only nets you a prospect, nets you a sure arm 7th, 8th inning pitcher? You wouldn't do that?
I don't believe that that's the case because if it was the case, somebody else would have signed him and they didn't.
Right, but they
Mets
got
didn't
him.
sign JD until March.
But now you're only worrying about him for the last 2 months.
yeah, but I
Lewis.
think also, I mean, the JD thing, we have to, if you just want to revisit it for a half a second, don't forget he was the Boris guy. And Boris had these inflated expectations money-wise for a lot of these guys. And so that's why they sat. If the price would have been more reasonable, like it ended up being with the Mets, I think he would have went earlier.
Yeah. What else you got, Lewis?
My last point is I'm 54. I've been a Mets fan since 1980. I've seen, I think, 6 times they've made the playoffs in my entire life. And I can't imagine that either the owner or the GM would walk away from a real shot at making the playoffs, even if it's wild card. Because in my World Series as wild card teams, you get in, you don't know what's going to happen.
Well, that's been proven. Like,
No doubt.
So it's just make the playoffs. So right now the Mets are a game and a half out of the last wild card spot. So they're definitely wild card viable. We know that.
Yeah.
And in order for them to, be active at the trade deadline, because that's what we're talking about now, they had to keep winning. They need to keep above or keep this pace that they've been over the last month and keep it trending in the right direction. Otherwise, David Stearns has no incentive to want to make the team better at the trade deadline. Now, could they just sit pat and finish the season just above 500 and, like 5 or 6 games over 500 and still make the playoffs? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. And so maybe that's the idea. So you're not sacrificing anything and you're just kind of sitting in place, letting what happens. But that's not inspiring. I feel like over the last, few weeks, this Met team has felt inspiring, or they've played inspired baseball. So why not try to facilitate that? And so I think if you're gonna make moves, you got to be really smart about it. And I think moving on from a guy like JD Martinez simply because he's gonna net you the most back might be dangerous to dampening that big mood. And I know it's business. I know that David Stearns has the ability because he did it with Josh Hader, but Josh Hader was having a bad year in 2022 when he sent them packing. And so I think it's a different circumstance. I think JD Martinez right now is as hot a Met as there is, especially in some of these clutch moments that he's been really big in.
Which is exactly why I think he's attractive, and exactly what I'm saying is confidence in the Mets. I am more confident than ever in Vientos and Francisco Alvarez as building blocks of his team, and you're still including Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor there. This is the unfortunate new world of baseball with so many less sellers and so many teams looking to buy that you have to find ways to sell and yet still compete. And pinpointing what nets you a return and still being able to compete, I think you saw it on full display last night with that home run. Lou Gehrig looks like he's steaming out of his ears. The power of positivity. Do we have to address you here? What happened?
Well, yes, the power of positivity, and I think the difference with this Mets team is the guys they've brought in around the core. JD Martinez, Iglesias, obviously Francisco Alvarez becoming the leader, and I don't want to break that up, like to Tiki's point. I don't want to change the locker room here, and the bullpen right now is scuffling, absolutely, but that's because Edwin Diaz is serving a farce suspension. When he gets back, the bullpen will be better. And I would flip this on you, Shawnee. I think the Yankees are different this year because of Alex Verdugo. You trading him out of that locker room because then you're going back to the corporate Yankees.
I'm more confident in the depth of the Mets lineup.
Yeah, but the depth of the lineup is gone if you start trading guys off. And if you trade off Martinez, what are you sending to that locker room?
Hold on, you used the wrong guy. We have a guy on a one-year deal right now. His name is Gleyber Torres, who's getting hot. If he gets hot for the next 2 weeks, and I know I'm getting a bullpen armor too, I would do that deal too.
But hold on. Gleyber's situation is so different because Gleyber has he
you're not bringing him back?
Well, not only that, but has he fully acquitted himself to being like the future second baseman for the Yankees? And the answer is no. And so, I mean, how often as Yankee fans have you said, move Gleyber? I mean, I feel like we've been saying that for 3 or 4 years.
But JD's not going to be a future part of this Met team.
He's not, but he's for right now. And they're hot right now.
And I hate to say it, I think we could all agree, the Yankees have bigger picture plans here than the Mets do this year.
No, but if you're the Mets, and I've talked about this before, you have to start building a culture. If you're trying to attract free agents like Juan Soto or the Juan Sotos of the future, you have to be a team that wins. Other teams have money. LA has money, Atlanta, Philly. So Steve Cohen's money, there's a lot of it, but you need to build a culture where you're winning every year to attract free agents. I would look for your plan, Sean, to trade more of a Sean Manaea because I have Christian Scott. Because in theory, I'm getting Kodai Senga back.
Yeah, you can replace him easily.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not telling you to hand over JD Martinez, but if he happens to be the biggest bat that can emerge from a team selling, I think you Met fans, you need to understand that's part of the reason David Stearns probably agreed to bring him here in the first place. And I have some thoughts on Edwin Diaz and why I'm not so sure the bullpen suddenly is going to be solved the moment he's off suspension. At 888-808-1019, it's Evan and Tiki here on The Fan. Coming to you live from the Town Fair Tire Studios, powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.